Hey, do you want to make some money selling land? Do you want to get started flipping land? How do you do that is one of the most common questions I get in the comments and in emails that are sent to my office. Well, I want to give you a couple of ideas to help you get started with that. This is how I do it. This is what's made up dozens of deals that I've personally done. Heck, I've written a book on it, but I want to give you the basics on the easy way to start doing this. Now, I don't mean that it's so simple that anybody will go out there and just start flipping land left and right tomorrow. I meant it's the easiest way to get started doing it if you're new to this. For people getting started wanting to flip land, the two easiest types of tracts to do are, number one, and this is the easiest, but it's also the most difficult to find, are deals that are just underpriced for what they can be used for. It's as simple as finding a property that has this value, but you know can be bought at this price. You simply buy it, put it back out on the market for what you know it ought to sell for. Now, those deals are out there. We find them from time to time, but they're just not common that you're going to find one every day. But it's the kind of deal that you can be looking for while you're looking for the second kind of deal. The type of tract that I encourage you to spend your time looking for, finding property suited for residential use that you can buy larger acreages and divide it up. That is the meat and potatoes way that I do most of my private land deals. But the kind of deals that I look for when I'm looking for stuff personally are tracts that I can buy a larger block of acres and chop it up into smaller, either home site tracts or either smaller recreational tracts. Now, just because it's that simple in concept doesn't make the work simple. You've got to find the right property. The way you go about doing that is understanding what small rural home sites are selling for in your part of the world. Have the end in mind before you begin. Begin with the end in mind. Know what you can sell a 6, 8, 10 acre tract for. And once you have that in mind, your goal then is to find a larger tract that you can split up for at a low enough price that you can sell it for that retail number. You can do the same thing with recreational tracts. We've done that a number of times. Now, you getting started, you might not be able to go buy 2,000 acres. I don't know. Doesn't necessarily even have to be that big. We've done it with just a few hundred acres. You buy a larger recreational property that has the ability to chop up, meaning the ability to divide with good access, and you sell smaller recreational tracts, selling 40, 60, 80 acre recreational tracts in our part of the country. Man, it just works great. That's recreational subdivision. It really is. But let's talk about the residential part first, because that will involve smaller acreage, which may be something that more of you are suited to. You have to know what the retail price is to resell these smaller rural home site tracts. Now, I don't know where you are, don't know the acreage you're looking at, so we can't use real numbers, but I think you get the concept. You got to know the getting out number before you can get in. Once you've got that number, you just simply start looking for tracts. And I want to give you the 4 most important things real quickly that you've got to make sure that tract delivers before you jump into it. Number 1, it's got to have good access. Now, keep in mind, if you're going to buy something to chop it up for rural home sites, people are going to be coming and going. Mamas are going to be driving back and forth with their kids. Daddy's going to be coming back and forth home from work. It's got to have good access. Now, there are people that live off the grid and like things rough and tough, but we're not talking about those people. We're talking about your average, typical rural home site tract that somebody can build on, put a mobile or a modular home on. Number 2, it's got to have availability of utilities, at least at a minimum electricity. There are a lot of places that might not have municipal water service, that most people have a well. That'll work too, but at a bare minimum, you've got to have electricity. Some parts of the country, you've got to make sure that the ground perks for septic use. Different parts here of the South, we don't have to worry about that. We use mechanical septic systems. These are rural tracts that aren't going to have municipal sewer service, so a mechanical septic system is what people will use in these rural areas where I'm familiar with. But if you're in a part of the country, North Carolina comes to mind, that the ground has to perk, you're going to need to check that box and jump through that hoop on a tract before you can make a decision to buy it. Third thing you've got to make sure to check the box on that tract is no restrictions or restrictive covenants, meaning that the tract can be used for rural home site development. That there's no covenants on the deed that you're buying that restrict any kind of residential use, and that there's no zoning that's prohibiting that. Hey, the fourth thing that you need to make sure that tract will give you is buildable terrain. Now that sounds like a complicated thing, but basically it just means, is the ground suitable to build a home on? And you've got the terrain that's rocky and straight up, straight down, that's not so good. Or if it's low and flat, that's not so good. High rolling ground that is suitable for a home site. Now, not every inch of the ground has to be perfect high rolling ground. It's just got to be enough of the acreage that a person can easily develop a home site spot for. Good high rolling ground that is accessible to the road, close to the utilities, and will properly drain. Hey, I know I just hit the real high level stuff in this short video, but I promise you folks, this is the getting in place if you want to start flipping rural land. Finding these tracts that you can buy 10, 12, 15 acres divided up into 2, 3, 4, 5 acre parcels with access, utilities, good ground, and no zoning or restrictive covenants. I've always said everybody's got to live somewhere. And if you can provide these places to people at a reasonable price, meaning just what is the going market value is in your area for those types of acreages, you're going to be able to make money. You can find these larger tracts that you can chop up into residential, rural home sites, or small recreational tracts. So thanks for watching our videos. There's some more right there. Check them out.